of this. Joining me now to discuss the trade deal reached with China and the latest inflation report exceeding expectations is Senior Research Fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research, Jason Sorens. So the sky is apparently not falling.
Apparently not. This was a very cool inflation reading, and the markets have upped their expectations of Fed rate cuts being moved forward, very likely by September and possibly as soon as next month. In addition, the agreement on China framework, I think, is going to lead automakers to breathe a sigh of relief that we're going to bring in some of these rare earth magnets for the next few months. And next year, I think the U.S. is going to have a better hand against China because these rare earth processing facilities are going to start moving outside China. One's opening in Malaysia this year, and then next year one's opening in the U.S.
Yeah, that was something I didn't understand. It was very underreported because the top line of it was Biden was, canceling pipelines and land leases, but he also started going around the country cordoning off areas for mining. Well, if you want us to drive EVs, why would you let China produce the batteries? Why wouldn't we mine our own materials?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things you have to realize is that rare earths are not so rare. They're mined around the globe. But China, during the Obama administration, developed an effective monopoly on processing those rare earth minerals and turning them into magnets that we need for batteries and for the auto industry. And so that is what China has used as leverage to get the Trump administration to climb down pretty quickly from those really high tariffs that were announced a few weeks ago. But with this framework, we can now reach potentially a future deal with China over the next few months that will then put the U.S. in a better position going forward because China's about to lose their monopoly on rare earth processing.
What would stop? What is there a reason why rare earth processing can't be done in the United States?
There's really no reason except that China just undercut everybody on price. And so, now that China is holding these minerals back and using them as leverage, now all of a sudden industry doesn't want to go with necessarily the lowest cost provider. They want to go with someone who's more reliable, and that's going to diversify the supply globally.
Now, let's add to this. We could put up the headline. The Detroit News is reporting that GM is about to invest $4 billion in, I wouldn't say onshoring, repatriating perhaps, production from Mexico back into the United States. So if they want to make EVs in the United States, it would make sense in the supply chain to mine the materials, process them, and turn them into product for installation into these cars, wouldn't it?
That could very well make sense for them. Obviously, all else equal, you want to shorten your supply chain. You want to bring things either under your own roof or nearby to suppliers you can trust and have a long-term relationship with. And I think as we're seeing political risk rising around the world, American companies are saying, we want to make sure that our suppliers are in places that are stable, where we can have long-term contracts with them. And
we're not fueling their military growth to be adversarial to the United States and our allies, I mean, that would be crazy. That's the argument for getting the Europeans off the Russian oil, right? I mean, the Germans made some statement that they were not going to accept any more Russian tankers into their ports, but that doesn't mean they're not buying their gas. If the tankers dock in Finland or in the Netherlands, they're fine buying the product. But it's virtue signaling to say they won't let a Russian tanker dock in a port.
That's right. And I am a free trade guy like a lot of economists. But when it comes to national security, you don't want vital supplies being controlled and monopolized by your adversaries. And that's a reason why we need to diversify our suppliers out of China. And, fortunately, there are a lot of other suppliers of oil and natural gas to Europe other than Russia, including us. Right. And so we've been shipping a lot of liquefied natural gas over there. And that's a great deal for both sides.
Well, I would imagine there are other developing nations that would jump at the chance to process these materials. I wouldn't be surprised if there were South American governments that would, jump at the chance to take some of this production away from China and create jobs in their countries, in our hemisphere.
That's right. And so I do think it's important for government here to establish some basic incentives for us not to just buy everything that is a critical defense relevant supply from China. And once we do that, then we let the market determine, okay, where else is going to be good for supplying these materials? And you need the workforce, right? You need workers who are experienced in the ability to process these materials. You need capital, right? You need big facilities where this is done. So we don't know exactly where that's going to be, but so long as we can diversify that supply, that's going to put us in better stead for the future.
Well, I put my trust in the market. I mean, if Ford could open a massive automobile plant in Brazil and train up a workforce and produce a product, I bet it wouldn't take very long to find a workforce that could process rare earth materials. And I probably wouldn't even be surprised if some of these countries could also mine them as well. I mean, right? It's if you make the incentive, you build it, they will come. I'll give you the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's something in economics we call learning by doing. And this is one of the reasons why you do want to have a manufacturing sector, is that workers can learn how to do these more advanced techniques as they start at the sort of bottom of the value chain and then work up. And this is one of the reasons why the Trump administration has become favorable to investing in Ukraine, as that's one area where we do have some rare earths that can be mined and then maybe processed elsewhere.
All right, Jason, I got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.